Yay! Super excited.
Me too. I have so many things going on, like, just crazy. But I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Joshua.
You see me over here typing. I'm taking notes for things to pinpoint and make video clips to say no.
You got this. There's something on the thing. I'm not sure what it's from. Weird. No. Fix that. Okay. There. We're good? Haha. So we're at 1 o'clock now. Do you want to wait a few minutes for see if someone wants to show up to the live, or we can plug right ahead? This is a huge session. So I normally do this in as many as 5 and as typically little as 3 sessions. So we're gonna like power through this really.
Woo! All right.
You can have the entire guide that I created for it. But like I said, normally I would go into a lot more depth on all of the stuff that I'm going to cover. So I am going to share my screen for the guide that I've created in this. I've taught this in industry. I've taught this in like massive pharmaceutical company. I've went in and done the stress management series with them. So this is something that I've done before numerous times, but it's beneficial for everybody, everybody. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay. So stress management, stress. Sometimes, and before we even start, I'm going to say that stress really is handled by your body in a way in which you believe that you handle it. So if you believe that stress is negative towards you, that it's something that that holds you back, that it creates disease and illness, then that's exactly what stress will do. It'll be limiting. If you think that stress enhances you, that it gives you keen insight, or like it propels you, then that's exactly what stress will do for you. But we'll talk about that as we go through the document. So this is how the agenda works for this one. I would do it in 5 sessions. It would be all 5. When I did it in several sessions, I think I combined all the managing into one, and then build resilience and then wellness practices as a separate section for the 3. So stress comes in many different forms, and it affects your mind and body in different ways. Small things can make you feel stressed, such as a copy machine that never seems to work when you need it, or phones that won't quit ringing. Major stress comes from having too much or not enough work to do, or doing work that doesn't satisfy you. Conflicts with your boss, coworkers, or customers are other major sources of stress. It's normal to have some stress. Stress releases hormones that speed up your heart, make you breathe faster, and give you a burst of energy. Stress can be useful when you need it to focus on a big task or project. It's half the reason why people with that procrastinate, because you kick yourself into that stress function, and you're just like, I can go now. My sight's keen. I like flowing. So we push ourselves to that stress zone. It's not necessarily a good thing to, personally put yourself in that position, but I understand why it works with procrastination. So too much stress or being under stress for too long isn't good for you. Constant stress can make you more likely to get sick more often. It can make chronic pain worse, and can also lead to long-term health problems such as heart disease, high blood pressure, back problems, and depression. So in the earlier session where I can't remember her name from the previous session, was talking about weight. Pardon?
Amber.
Amber. So when Amber was talking about weight, she was talking about your cortisol levels. Well, that's one of the things that gets affected with stress. So when our stress level gets hit, our cortisol levels rise. And as we become used to that chronic level of stress, we no longer notice it. So it actually seems to go below the horizon and we think, I'm not stressed anymore. Meanwhile, our cortisol is actually still sitting up here. We've just become accustomed to it, so we don't feel it anymore. So we need more and more cortisol dumped in to recognize that we are in a stress situation. But when we're in chronic stress, our nervous system is operating in our other nervous system states. So we're not in rest and digest. We're either in fight or flight, freeze, disassociate, or fawn. So when we're in those states, we have a decrease in our immune function and an increase in inflammation, which is why we end up with all of these things like making chronic pain worse, or increase in or blood pressure, heart disease, back problems, depression, etc. So this sheet, I'm not sure what this white thing is. I can't seem to figure out how to get it off, but this is good for, it's just, it is there. So what causes job stress? So most of the time it's the major sources of stress that lead to job burnout and health problems. Job stress can affect your home life too. And here are some major sources with examples. So this is just an info of what the effects of stress are. So when we look at hair, so with hair, when we have excessive levels of stress, it actually causes this cascade of chemical reactions, which actually affects the hair follicle. So you end up with a form of alopecia that is stress induced. Mouth, when we're in fight or flight, we're not in freeze or disassociate. So we have a decrease in saliva production. So mouth ulcers and excessive dryness, which also creates a decrease in hunger. So you have some people who become like super thin when they're stressed out. It's because they just don't find food palatable. So there's all these other things. You can look over some of the causes, major effects of stress to kind of familiarize yourself with some of them, but in the honor of time, we're going to whip by this. So some of the things we have for things that can cause job stress is a lack of control. So feeling as if you have little or no control over your work or job duties. So people who feel like they have no control are more likely to get stress-related illnesses. So if you're putting together a report that's delivered at 4 p.m. and you're waiting all day for notes and numbers from other people, then that you have no control over that. That's going to affect, it's going to put stress on you because you have a deadline that the information you have no control over whether you receive it on time, but that puts the stress on your plate. And you can get very resentful at coworkers who aren't helping you to meet your deadlines because they're slowing down with the stuff that they're supposed to do. Increased responsibility. This happens all the time. You start out at a job, you have your little plate of duties that you're given as your job responsibilities. They're like, these are all your duties. And then they come along and they're like, hey, you're managing fine. How about I give you some more work to do? And you are managing fine in that moment. So you take more work on. Over time, that plate that had, enough job duties for one person now extends to this situation where I've seen it, in being the director of nursing, where I think the director of nursing job actually could have been spread to 3 up to 5 people, from between 3 to 5 people. We ended up hiring an educator. We ended up hiring other managers. We ended up hiring all these different team members that would help to offset some of that role. So that's another thing, is having that increased responsibility. Sometimes they are tasks or they're jobs that you take on for somebody, hey, can you help me with this? And you're like, yeah, sure, because you don't know how to say no, or can't people please, or have poor boundaries. So next thing you know, you're overburdened with all these other responsibilities, and we can get, again, very resentful about that, or start not meeting deadlines that we had previously arranged for ourselves. Lack of support is another thing. If you don't get support from your coworkers, or you're not getting supported by your boss, that adds more stress to your plate. So, lack of support or coworkers makes it harder to solve other problems at work that are causing stress for you. Uncertainty about your roles, so a lack of clarity with what you're supposed to be doing. If there's any gray areas within your work environment, that's just a space that is open for stress. Poor work conditions. So if you're working in dangerous physical conditions, if you're in a situation, recently I had a lady that I've spoken to on different occasions. She's not a client, but would like to be a client, but wasn't in a financial position to do that. And she'd gotten a new job and injured herself on the job, and they terminated her. So I immediately spoke to her from like a labor standpoint that that's not legal to do. But for people that are maybe immigrants or individuals that have a lower level of education, things like that. Sometimes we get into situations where we don't want to say anything, or if we have a trauma story too, we may not stand up for what is basic safety within like occupational health and safety. So let's say noise exposure, having that exposed higher level of noise and how much that can affect you and create that level of stress, and not feeling able to stand up and say this is unsafe work environment is going to more increase that stress. Poor communication as well. If you're being locked out of communication or the chain of communication isn't working correctly. I worked in an environment, there was the executive director, there was the owner, and then there was me and another manager. The other manager was consulted all the time. It was the three of them, and then I was the odd person out. And the reason for that was the other manager that was the same as me was also the husband of the executive director. So the husband of the executive director and the owner of the company, they would all have all kinds of business meetings and meetings about the organization, and I wouldn't be a part of it. So that creates stress because you're wondering, like, what have I done that I'm not part of that, you know, the organizational structure that should exist. And job satisfaction and performance. So if you're not really enjoying your job, you get no satisfaction or anything from it, that can make you feel insecure. It can really just decrease your job satisfaction and increase stress. So I'm not sure why this is coming up a little bit fuzzy, but these are different ways to manage stress. So I just put them in this little chart to give it some graphic, but there's practice breathing and relaxation techniques, meeting with your manager, getting organized, don't put things off, learning to say no, increasing focus, learning to concentrate, delegating tasks, unplugging, being realistic about some of the things that you're doing, learning how to reward yourself, and scheduling time for fun. So one part is setting goals to reduce stress. So one, identify what is causing you stress. Two, reflect on why you want to reduce the stress, and then set a goal. So little goal setting things. If we're saying identify what is causing us stress, maybe it's linked to, I have too many responsibilities and I'm feeling really overwhelmed with everything that I have. So maybe reflecting on what you're identifying, you have too many things, you're reflecting on why you want to reduce it, you're feeling very overwhelmed, and you don't feel like you have enough time to adequately give to each of the things that you've set up for. So maybe setting the goal is setting up delegating of tasks that you can, learning to say no, and empowering yourself in doing so. So those things are some of the ways that we can just use those goal setting to reduce stress. So the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another, because the biggest thing that we have that stresses us out is our own thoughts and the way that we interpret what is going on in our life. So like I said, with the belief system, if you believe that stress is enhancing, it will enhance you. If you feel that stress is debilitating, stress will be debilitating to you. So these are just, you know, some made up team members that I made up. They were in the previous slide. If we go back, actually we'll use, if we go back to here, we had these were the guys within here. So Shelley was responsible for putting together the report. She's the one who has to wait for other people to bring work to her so that she can meet deadlines. So the things are out of her control. So for her, she's going to set up this reducing stress by managing the frustration over things she can't control. So the way that she is her short-term goal is learning to do deep breathing and relaxation exercises when she gets stressed, and she'll try it the next time her boss hands her a last-minute project. So she's just going to learn to manage her own internal regulation, her nervous system. So John's long-term goal is to reduce stress by learning to say no to projects. His short-term goal is to get organized and prioritize the projects he has now. So he's going to make a list of all of his work and then prioritize the tasks that are more important. So those are different examples of how you can do goal setting, whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, to manage stress or to change situations at work. So after setting your goals to reduce stress, you're going to think about what might get in your way so you can be prepared to overcome any of those, handle the objections. If we were in sales, we'd be handling the objections. In this situation, we're thinking about what's going to get in our way so we can create a plan that looks at those barriers. And that's the next step, is creating that personal action plan that includes assessing those barriers. So if I'm thinking about, saying no, I have a hard time saying no because I tend to people please. So I know that a barrier that might get in the way of my short-term or my long-term goal of learning to say no is going to be my own self-confidence. So I might need to review that. What can I do to support myself so that maybe it's taking a course, or maybe it's, having a partner who, an accountability partner that's, going to hold me to saying no, right? You can't take anything else on. I expect you to say no to the next request. And then you have that accountability partner. And getting support from family and friends in your efforts to reduce job stress is important, because a lot of times the work needs to begin and end at home. There's a lot of measures that we can put in place on those ends as well. So these are just some different goal setting formats that there are. So there's creating that personal action plan. So you set your current skills, what you're working on, your goals, your resources, and your action plan. There's SMART goal setting. This is a huge one that's used in industry everywhere, and a lot within mental health, in CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, things like that. So SMART Goals Guide, it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. So you're specific about what you're trying to accomplish, what your goal is. It is measurable, so you know that you're succeeding or not succeeding. You know how long it's going to take. It's attainable, so it's not something that's outside of your grasp. You're not saying that, my goal is to this month lose 100 pounds, to use weight as an example, because that's unreasonable to think that you could lose 100 pounds in a month, and you wouldn't want that anyway. So make sure that it's attainable. It's relevant. It has to be relevant to you. If your goal is to, I want to be able to skip on 1 foot backwards, but there's no point for it, there's just 0 point. What is it doing for me? And, why, what is the relevance of it? So make sure that it is relevant to you. And there should be some time boundaries for it, so that you can measure it along the timelines of what you're doing. Like, how long is it going to take you to reach this goal? Are there little markers in that you're going to check in on it? And what are you going to start with? What's the action that you're going to start with? And there's just a couple other action templates that are there. There is, so managing our time, that's a huge thing that's important in managing our job stress, is starting with managing our time. It helps you decide what is urgent, what can wait, and learning to manage our time and commitments can be hard, but doing so will make our lives more easy. So one, we want to prioritize tasks. So making a list of your tasks and activities throughout the week, and then rating them. So doing basically a triage system for your tasks. Control procrastination. I find controlling procrastination works with mindfulness. Tend to be more apt to procrastinate when my stress level elevates, when I start getting too future focused. That's when or if I'm looking for those dopamine runs, right? So you're like, I'm in a dopamine scroll. I'm just going to keep scrolling, noting that you're doing that. So you have plans in place to catch yourself for those things. And again, doing the stressful or unpleasant tasks first can help as well. So front load with the yuck so that you have the good stuff at the end. Perfectionism and procrastination, these two P's like to play in the same sandbox. Oftentimes we procrastinate because we want to be perfect and we know we can't attain perfection. So we delay and delay and delay. And then we set ourselves up for that failure, because on the opposite side of perfection is that deep-seated thing of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not deserving. And that oftentimes is what perfectionism is rooted in, is we're trying to be perfect because then we will obviously be good enough, but we can't make it perfect. So then we reiterate the fact that we're not good enough. So it's just that self-serving circle. But if you look at the underlying reasons for why you are trying to attain perfectionism and learn to avoid it, you can save yourself a lot of headaches. And it can also help you to treat your procrastination a little bit. So I started doing a couple of things. One was I created the statement for myself that 99 is just fine. Because I was a straight A student. I got a 4.0 all the way through university. I did my nursing degree in 3 years instead of 4 years, and was on the president and dean's list. So I maintained a 4.0 for the entire time. And that's because I was perfectionism was like should have been my middle name. But like, what did it get me? Did me having that like attain anything better than what the person that got the straight C's? No, it didn't do anything for me. Just gave me something to maybe brag about. So then managing your commitments, both too many and too few commitments can lead to stress. Learn when to say yes is just as important as learning when to say no. So learning what your intuition, what does your body say? For me, I know that when I'm really, really want to do something, that I actually physically feel my head going, yeah. And when I don't, I actually feel myself retract from it. And I'm like, like my head goes back, I'm like, that's not for me. So when you learn what your body is saying, when your body is involved and invested in it, that can be really important too. So you can also look at doing things like learning how to do a body sway test, which will tell you what your subconscious is responding to the situation, what your subconscious really wants. So your body will sway forward for yes and backwards for no. Typically that's the way it goes, because towards is the yes, away from is the no. But play with your body and just ask it to show you what it wants. And then you can ask yourself, take 2 seconds to just check in with your body and just say, okay, body, is this something that we should be doing? And it'll lean forward and say, yes, it is. And then away you go. And then also make sure that you take time for play. It's not just about play. It's about actual rest, shutting off all stimulation, not being on your phone, not listening to a podcast. Cause I do that. I'll be like, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do this or whatever, but I'm still engaging my functions, right? Like I'm still listening to a podcast or something to like keep my brain active, but actually being able to shut down and just be in silence and stillness is a huge thing. And if you can't, you should probably connect with me, because there's probably an underlying trauma story for why you can't shut off. Managing your thoughts, another huge thing. Again, our perspective. Our perspective is huge. The way that we see the things that are in our world is going to shape our world. What we believe is what is going to be seen around us. So healthy thinking can teach you to know what thoughts of yours, both helpful and not, affect problems or feelings that trouble you. With practice, you can wow, I'm having a problem reading my own writing today. With practice, you can learn to use accurate thoughts to encourage you instead of negative thoughts to discourage you. So, like saying things like, this always happens to me. I never get asked. I always have to do the extra job, or I don't think my boss likes me, or, like thinking things like negative like that is going to set you up to stay in that negative state, right? Our thoughts are so huge, right? So, and when our thoughts start going into, so our thoughts are energy, they're energy that are supposed to be in motion, the same as our emotions are actually energy in motion. And our thoughts drive our emotions, which then drive our actions. So if we're thinking something that's positive, it's going to generate and there are no positive or negative emotions. They're just information. But They're going to drive an emotion that is going to be more helpful to you, which is going to generate that you're going to respond. When we get a negative thought, which creates an emotion that is going to hinder you in some way, then that is going to create a reactionary response as opposed to a regular response. So there are a couple of different ways that you can manage your thoughts, and these are just a couple. So cognitive behavioral therapy, if you're really, really bad at overthinking and, it's something that you've identified as an issue for yourself and you're very much stuck in a negative thought pattern, then that might be something to look at to actually get help with. Right. But these are a couple of things. So cognitive behavioral therapy is full therapy that is used to help people think in a healthy way. It focuses on your thought, which is your cognitive, and your action, which is your behavioral. Most people do cognitive behavioral therapy with an actual therapist, like a psychotherapist or a social worker who has a master's degree, but you can do cognitive behavioral therapy with other individuals as well. So it's understanding and acknowledging the cognitive distortions you have and how you think, and implementing strategies to correct and practice every day that will help make the healthy thinking more normal. So you learn to notice irrational thoughts about yourself, learn to stop the thoughts, learn to replace the negative thoughts with accurate thoughts, learn to relax your body and mind, and learn to manage your time better. So within cognitive behavioral therapy, a stop thought technique is just a really quick stop thinking technique that anybody can deploy. It's not a part of any therapy program. It's just something that I teach my clients to do. So thought stopping technique helps you change how you think so you'll feel better. So you focus on the thought and learn to say stop for stressful issues or repetitive negative thoughts. So let's say you're, I never get the promotion. I never get like the good stuff. The good stuff never happens to me. So listen to your thoughts and write them down from the most stressful to the least. I'm always worried that something bad is going to happen to my child. I'm worried about money and making all my payments. I'm worried about losing my job because I've been sick a lot lately. So imagine the thought. Close your eyes and imagine the situation that would conjure up one of these worrying thoughts, and stop the thought. I was going to scroll down. Stop the thought, set the timer, and focus on the thought until the timer goes off. Then say out loud, stop. You can add standing up or snapping your fingers to strengthen the step. After you say stop, clear your mind and try to keep it empty for 30 seconds. If the thought comes back, repeat the stop command and empty your mind again. For some, picturing a bright red stop sign helps, especially when combined with the visual of traffic stopping and going. You are in the queue and need to wait for your turn. After you've breathed deeply and calmed yourself, it's your turn to proceed. Do you still have the same thought? So you're just working on, and all this is doing is teaching you to delay the thought. Delay the thought a little bit longer is such a handy thing. Now, the other one that I like to do, and I'm going to skip to the next one. Okay, so I didn't include it in this one. So my personal stop thought technique, or mine, is creating a worry time. So one, I would in the moment catch myself that I am on a negative thought spiral, or I'm thinking about, I'm in a automatic negative thoughts, or I'm just on this, this negative spiral. So as soon as you catch yourself, stop, see the red stop sign come up, and then it's time to ground into your body, slow and deepen your breathing, and say to yourself, now is not the time to worry. I've created a worry time. And, for many of my clients, I teach them, let's say, create the worry time Tuesday at 2 for an hour, and you book it in your calendar and everything. Tuesday at 2 is my worry time. So when you worry outside of that time, you visualize it, you do some breathing, you allow yourself to get grounded and centered into your body, out of your head, do the stop. Now is not the time to worry. I can worry Tuesday at 2. So you delay it. And the reason why the delay works is because oftentimes it's in the moment, right? Like you'll have the thoughts before you're going to bed where you're sitting there worrying about, like, what's tomorrow going to be like? I've got this deadline, yada, yada, da, 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 da. And you keep going on that track But in the morning, it's gone. Like that thought's gone. You're not even thinking about it. You get up in the morning and you just, you're making your coffee, get ready for work, and off you go. And, you're maybe in a really productive mood. Your energy is really balanced and centered. And you're like, I've got this. I've got this. Right. So sometimes delaying the thought is because it's really not even something that you're going to worry about later, like worrying about a child or worrying about, like that one there, worrying about, I'm always worried something bad is happening to my child. Well, 2:00 in the morning, that's probably an unnecessary thought. Is anything happening to your child right now? No. So why are you worrying about it? If you could bring the stuff to you that you worry about in your mind, then you would not want to worry at all, right? So especially about your child always being sick, if that was going to create that. So these are just a couple of thought pattern techniques that can work. Is to create the worry time or do the thought stopping technique. So these are just some of the unhelpful thought patterns that exist and create stress for us. So one is all or nothing, that describes thinking or acting in extremes. So the tendency to evaluate one's personal qualities in extreme black and white categories. Overgeneralization describes seeing a pattern based on too little data. So that's where you get that little snippet of information. Your boss calling you to the office is you're getting terminated. So that's a very big overgeneralization. And many of us do that. We think that our boss calling us in, he must be firing us. Mental filter, which is selective abstraction. So the process of focusing on a detail taken out of context, ignoring more salient features of the situation, and conceptualizing the whole experience based on this experience. So, and it's typically filtering out for the negative. So you're looking in, just finding those key little details and focusing on just those negative ones. Personalization and blame, when you arbitrarily conclude that what happened was your fault, even when you are not responsible. Yeah, I had an example for that, but it went away. It's somebody that I was dealing with recently too, that brought it up. And I'm like, so wait a second. So you did that really? You're that powerful? That little action that you did there led to that whole thing? Really? Right. So it's like sometimes grasping that, right? Like by me not choosing to do something that didn't create this, like whole event, that was just one little piece of the whole entire situation. Disqualifying the positive. We do that a lot. Sometimes we'll be like, if somebody else gets awarded a job, they got it because they are talented and skilled and look at their resume. And of course they would promote her. She's phenomenal. And then you get the job and it's like, oh my God, they must have had no other qualified candidates. I must have just lucked out to get this. So you disqualify the positive happening to you. Jumping to conclusions, so arbitrarily jumping to a negative conclusion that is not justified by the facts. Fortune telling, we all do this, where we imagine the worst case scenario is happening. Mind reading is a variation of that, thinking that we think we know what somebody else is thinking, or what somebody else is processing, or their thought processes. We do not. Magnifying and minimizing, exaggerating imperfections while minimizing achievements and strengths, right? Like saying and getting into that thing, I always make these mistakes. I always do this wrong. I never get anything right. Meanwhile, this person could have like 7 degrees and all of these like qualifications and achievements that they've done, but they're still stuck on the, I never do anything right. I always get everything wrong. But you've got that trophy right there that shows you're not always. Right. Emotional reasoning. So taking one's emotions as evidence of the truth. Should statements. And there's a lot of concrete words that we use. The always, never, and again, you should be doing this, right? They often reflect unreasonable standards and frequently leads to feelings of frustration, shame, or guilt. And labeling or mislabeling. So summing up ourselves or others with tags such as I am hopeless or I am stupid. So those are a whole bunch of, and there's so much more complexities. Like I might actually, the next session that I do, I think might be just on cognitive distortions. Like the next education session that I'll do, will focus just on the cognitive distortions. and some of the things that you can do to help with those. So one of the things is building resiliency. From spilled milk moments to traumatic events, life's challenges happen to you, to me, to everyone. As much as we'd like to, we can't prevent all of these experiences from happening, but what we can do is build resilience. Resilience is what helps you bounce back after hardship, and is what helps you learn and grow from an experience. Being resilient about the big stuff is important, but life can get complicated. Resilience also helps you handle the typical and ever-changing demands of daily life. Many people think that because they have trauma, that they have a wide window of resilience, but they don't. They do not. They're typically, people with trauma have, a big window of tolerance, in that we tolerate a lot of mistreatment from others. We tolerate crossing boundaries. We tolerate tolerate mistreatment. Whether that's mistreatment from us to other people or from other people to us, we tolerate a lot of different things, but our window of resilience is actually quite narrow, because you think about those emotions being stacked in there. And when you're talking about somebody who's close to burnout or breakdown, and they feel like they're going to cry at any moment, their emotions are like right at the edge, and they're ready to explode, right? They're like a firework going off all the time. Something happens, and next thing you know, like they're at a restaurant and their order was incorrect and they're flipping the table. That's because they're up here and they just don't know it, right? They're ready. Their top is constantly ready to blow. So it's not that you've been exposed to all of these things. So maybe seeing a tragedy or seeing something, really explosive happen, it might not affect you the way that it would somebody else. Like, you're not going to be affected the same way, but your window of resilience really is low. Your window of tolerance to stuff may be high. So 7 steps to building resiliency. 1 is exploring your thoughts and feelings. 2 is finding the positive. This is not about toxic positivity. Whenever I'm talking with any of my clients or anybody about it, 1, I always am important to remind people that there are no negative and positive feelings or emotions. They are just an information system giving you information about your environment. If somebody walks up and slaps you across the face, you are going to be angry, possibly shocked, hurt, variety of emotions. But if you're angry because somebody came up and slapped you across the face, that's absolutely justifiable, valid emotion for you to feel in that situation. You beating them up afterwards, not the response that's appropriate. Right. So looking at exploring your thoughts and feelings, you could be looking at, I just got slapped across the face by this individual in front of me. What did I do to have that happen? Because there's probably some part on yours. People don't typically just walk up and slap somebody for no reason, if we're using that as an example. So what was my part? And what am I learning from this? And what am I learning? Well, that person, apparently they don't have any control over their, themselves, in that they would do something like slap somebody. So this is teaching me that person's maybe not somebody that I want to have in my life, that this is a relationship that maybe I want to let go of. Could be teaching you a whole host of things. Could have been teaching you something about what you did that created that slap to begin with. Chris Rock probably not going to make jokes about Jada Pinkett anymore, right? Like he's just like, nope, I said that, and that created that slap from Will Smith, so I'm just not going to do that anymore, right? So you're going to find the positive though in the moment, because we want to be positively skewed, because it's like they say, what you focus on grows. So if we focus on gratitude, we grow more gratitude. So if we're focusing on positive, we're going to grow more things to feel positive about. We want to, in building resiliency, we want to learn from our past. What have we done before that worked well? What have we done before that didn't work well? Who were different people that we could lean on for support? Who wasn't someone that we could lean on for support? So really looking at our past, what can we learn from that? Believing in ourselves. Now that can take an element of confidence to actually believe in yourself. But when we're doing our review of our past and looking at what are things that we've overcome before and how well did we handle that? And, if you do a 10-year review and you look at yourself 10 years ago to where you are now, most of us will say that 10 years ago, we were in a much worse place than where we are now, that there's been growth and evolution that's occurred in that 10 years. So we've obviously done good things in that 10 years. So we can say to ourselves, I can believe in myself because I've accomplished these different things. So that learning from your past can help you within believing in yourself in this moment. Seek out people that are good for you. Really do an energetic scan. When you're around people, if you leave and you leave them and you feel depleted and, just really exhausted, those people are taking energy from you without giving you energy back. So then maybe those people aren't good for you, and you should look at reducing exposure to them. It's not necessarily the elimination, just reducing exposure to the place where it fits for you. Taking care of yourself, right? Eating good nutrition, getting exercise, grounding, walking. Like there's so many different ways that we can take care of ourselves. Sleep, right? It is such a huge factor. That's going to really help us to have, more resilience. I think about, your life as you're carrying around a whole bunch of different plates. You have your work plate, you have your personal plate, you have your family plate, you have your exercise plate, your, children plate. You have all these different plates that you're carrying around. Well, if my work plate starts to get really weighed down with all these different responsibilities that people keep dumping on it, then next thing you know, I'm coming from work exhausted, tired, maybe cranky, frustrated, whatever. I'm bringing that energy in. So then I'm like, I'm too tired to work out and I'm too tired to cook. So I'm just going to order takeout. Now I'm eating processed, greasy, yucky food. I'm skipping my workout. I'm frustrated and exhausted. And now my sleep's going to be affected because I'm going to bed with this junk in my body that's affecting my sleep. Maybe I overate, binged on some chocolate, trying to feed myself emotionally. And here I am. Now I've got more plates out of whack because now my job was, overwhelmed with responsibilities. And then I skipped a workout. I ate like crap. I slept like crap. And now I get up tomorrow morning and I start fighting with my partner. Now my partner and I are in it. So I've got added stress and I'm heading back to work with more stress. So that's why it's really important to take care of yourself and to do these other things as well. And having a gratitude practice. Again, what we focus on grows. If we focus on things to be grateful for, we will find more things within our life to be grateful for. All righty. Resiliency, exploring your thoughts and feelings. This goes in depth into each one of those steps. But like I said, this was originally a 5-session series. So we're going to power through these. You can read them at your own leisure. There we go. That's the word. So wellness practices to improve resiliency. So this is what I was talking about there is we have all these different plates and they get, this one goes in the example in the different way. You're struggling in your relationship, but you're managing to keep up to your responsibilities. Last night, you had a huge fight and your partner has decided to leave. Your relationship plate is very heavy now and led to a bad night's sleep. Now you're at work, tired and lacking focus. Your boss notices that your productivity is down and says something. You snap, which results in a verbal warning. You don't eat well and skip exercising. Your life can spiral out of control quickly as one plate's dysfunction cascades to other plates. So resiliency is more than just being strong, it's being adaptable. It's taking what happens in your day-to-day, addressing the challenges, highlighting the positives, utilizing support, and incorporating healthy activities that are non-negotiable. When one plate gets too heavy, get support. So these are just a bunch of the different resiliency tools that are available to you that will help you. Okay, bye, Amber. That will help you improve your resiliency. And we'll go through each of them very briefly, but you have the full guide so you can delve into them, or you can always connect with me if you want more information on any of the things within this guide, for sure. So progressive muscle relaxation. So this is if you tense up your hand really tight right now and hold it and then you let it go, you can feel there's a relaxation, like it's even more relaxed, that feeling that comes in afterwards. So as you go through doing this, you are doing a progressive muscle relaxation from head to toe. So we do it using muscle groups as opposed to just, going in whatever direction, starting wherever, ending wherever, or do one hand and then the leg, like just you start top to bottom or bottom to top and start, where you're doing both sides at the same time. So when we do this, you're tense the group of muscles as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, relax them. Then you move up to the next group. So you do your forearms, do your biceps, all the muscle groups. And as you do this, you can do this right before bed and think about slipping into that state of relaxation that you would after you've tightened and released every single muscle. So just a really, really beneficial thing to do at bedtime, and just to release tension from those muscles. So, again, if you've got pain or tension or stress what's in your body, this can be handy for helping you to move that out. So this is an example of the muscle group and the action that you would do. So if you started from top to bottom doing the forehead, you would wrinkle your forehead into a really deep frown and then relax it. Close your eyes as tightly as you can, scrunching your nose, and then relax it. Smile as widely as you can, relax it. Press your lips tightly together. Neck, press the back of your neck down like that, and then touch your chin again to tighten and relax. Shoulders, shrugging them up nice and tight, and then let them go. Hands, you can even stretch them as far apart, etc. So you can go through that again and work on that, doing it at bedtime or any time that you're feeling tension in your arms or in your body is suggested. So relaxing your body and mind, take a deep breath. Hold it for a moment, then release. Do you feel more relaxed? Yeah. Immediately, one breath, you can feel that relaxation come up. The reason why is when we exhale nice and slow, it applies pressure to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the wandering nerve. It wanders all throughout your thoracic region, pretty much connecting all of your major organs. So it's a very big nerve. And when we exhale slowly, the pressure in our thoracic presses against that nerve, and it gives that relaxed feeling. So as we sink into that space, we can get more and more relaxed. It's actually what I do when I'm doing quantum regression and integration therapy, or quantum mind, body, spirit healing with people, is we get into that nice relaxed state of mind. So when we're relaxed, it can release or help ease stress. It can relieve anxiety, depression, and sleep problems. To relax means to calm the mind, the body, or both. And relaxing can quiet your mind and make you feel peaceful and calm. Your body also relaxes when you relax. For example, your muscles may be less tense and more flexible. There are different ways to relax, and you may find one or more ways help to calm you down and feel at peace. Relaxing the mind, listening to soothing music, writing in a journal, taking control of your thoughts, doing coloring or activity books, etc. Relaxing the body, going for a walk, getting a massage, having a glass of warm milk, aerobic exercises, yoga, etc. Breathing exercises. I could do a whole session just on breathing exercises for relaxation. This goes over quite a few different ones, which are amazing. But the way that we breathe definitely changes depending on the way that we feel. And when we're stressed out or when we're in fight or flight, our breathing gets shallow. It's the number one thing that happens no matter whether you are in fight, flight, freeze, disassociate, fawn, anxiety, depression, stress, any of them. Our breathing becomes shallow. We no longer engage our abdomen. And most of us don't use our abdomen as much as we should when we're breathing anyway. It's a vain thing that really ends up happening because your stomach moving out and in and out and in, and we're all about having that flat little ab, but actually doing the belly breathing is going to help you get that abs a lot easier than not. But doing the deep breathing is going to help you with good gas exchange, and it really, really lowers the stress in the body. It sends a message, that deep breathing, to the brain to calm down and relax. The brain then sends this message to the body. So those things that are happening when you are stressed, such as increased heart rate, fast breathing, and high blood pressure, all decrease as you breathe deeply to relax. So it affects your whole body. I thought I skipped by two. Belly breathing, this is just straight up belly breathing. You can go through all of these different ones for it. Heart focused breathing, I taught that in the last session that I did. That's where we're just focusing on our heart space. We're extending our breathing to an inhale and exhale over 5 seconds. You can change that to what fits or feels well for you. For some of us, 4 seconds is long enough. Some of us want 6 or 7 seconds. So just find what works for you. And you're just going to focus on the breathing coming in and out, the breath coming in and out from your heart space. Where your focus goes, your energy goes. So that's why we want our energy to be concentrating in the heart space, even though we're taking that nice deep inhale. We can change it to the quick coherence technique by thinking about an energy renewing emotion like joy, calm, peace, gratitude, appreciation, love, and care. And you just hold that picture in your mind or that memory in your mind as you're breathing deeply. Then there's 4-7-8 breathing. This is a technique that's taught a lot for people with anxiety and having PTSD. It's that really long hold of breath for 7 seconds. That's going to really be pushing against that vagus nerve, creating that relaxation, and that extra long exhale of 8 seconds. There is morning breathing and then roll breathing. This roll breathing is like a little bit of an exercise technique, and the morning breathing. Both of these are really more like a little bit combo of an exercise. This one, your morning breathing, I got them backwards, but you start from a standing position, you bend down and touch your hands to the floor, and as you inhale, you roll up, and then as you exhale, you roll down to touch your toes again. So you do it as you're getting up in the morning as a motion to just kind of get your body on board as well. Guided imagery is another fantastic thing to use for stress relief. Have you ever been in the middle of a stressful situation and wished you could be somewhere else, like lying on a tropical beach? Guided imagery helps you use your imagination to take you to a calm and peaceful place. Because of the way the mind and body are connected, guided imagery can make you feel like you're experiencing something just by imagining it. You can do guided imagery with audio recordings, an instructor, or a script, a set of written instructions to lead you through the process. You use all of your senses in guided imagery. For example, if you want a tropical setting, you can imagine the warm breeze on your skin, the bright blue of the water, the sound of the surf, the sweet scent of tropical flowers, and the taste of coconut, so that you actually feel like you are there. Imagining yourself in a calm, peaceful setting can help you relax and relieve stress. So this is just a guided imagery session. If we have time, which we probably won't, I'll come back and we'll go through this guided imagery before we leave. But you can read through this. But we can very easily, if I was just to say, that there is an elephant and its baby in this beautiful safari, you could picture that in your mind. Some of us have an issue with picturing it. That's aphantasia, I think. Aphantasia. I'd have to look up the word exactly, but where they don't picture things that way. So they would be blocked from doing that. Another thing is meditation. I think that everybody should have a meditation practice as a daily habit, or at least a regular practice. Meditation means different things to different people, and there are many ways to do this. And this topic focuses on a kind of meditation called mindful meditation. So the goal of mindful meditation is to focus your attention on the things that are happening right now in the present moment. The idea is to note what you are experiencing without trying to change it. Meditation can help you relax because you're not worrying about what happened before or what may occur in the future. You don't need any special tools or equipment to practice. You just sit in a comfortable position in a chair or on the floor. You can lie down if that's more comfortable for you. If your mind wanders, don't worry or judge yourself. When you become aware of your thoughts wandering, simply focus again on the present moment. One way to do this is by paying attention to your body. For example, is your breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow? Meditation may bring up certain feelings or emotions. If this happens, don't try to rid your mind of those feelings. Just focus on what you feel now. Don't get lost in the thoughts that those feelings might want to trigger. You can do mindful meditation while you walk. Go for a walk and say, on this walk, I'm going to focus on sounds. And then you just, for the entire walk, focus on the sounds that you're hearing around you and see how many different sounds you can hear on your walk. Your feet on the different surfaces that you walk across, the breeze running through trees is going to sound different than the breeze going through, say, bushes. What different bird calls can you hear? Did you hear any other animals? Are you picking up traffic noises depending on where you're walking? You can look for a color, a specific color as you go for a walk, or a shape. Do mindful meditation while you're doing the dishes. Anything can be made mindful. Yoga is also exercise, but yoga is a mind and body practice that involves movement, breathing exercises, and a focus on thoughts and feelings as they happen. So it's very mindful. And other ones like this are Qigong and Tai Chi. They both do the same thing of creating that mind and body connection with spirituality. So those are some great suggestions for getting your body moving while staying mindful for stress relief. Exercise is fantastic for stress relief. If we've got if we're in a situation of stress, oftentimes the cortisol, adrenaline, all of these other chemicals and neuro like hormones are flooding our system that take about 20 minutes to cascade through and get out of our bodies. So for us, doing 20 minutes of a HIIT routine, if you're feeling very stressed and overwhelmed, like say something huge happened and you're very overwhelmed and very stressed out, go blast out a 20-minute workout. It will give enough time for the hormones to run through your body. Plus it's giving something for the adrenaline to actively work on. So you give it something to do, and then do the breathing exercises too. And remember to always be working on the thoughts. Exercise doesn't have to be formal. It could be just going out and shooting some hoops with your kid. It's anything to get yourself active and moving. Nutrition is huge. Again, like every one of these sections, I could do like whole things just on them, but there's so much on nutrition. We don't realize how much processed foods, microplastics, metals that are in our food, dyes, like so many things with foods that affect us. Like food was one of the things that I really I attribute to my healing journey. So nutrition, we don't necessarily recognize how much food helps us with our emotions and our spiritual health. We just think of it as a physical thing. We're eating physical food for our physical health, but it's not. Some nutrients, when deficient, mimic depression and anxiety. Some additives can cause increase in symptoms of underlying mental health issues or cause sensations that mirror those of other disorders. So this is a very short list of things that can show up as different items that can affect us. So omega-3 fatty acids, they reduce inflammation and play a critical role in brain function, especially memory and mood. So a deficiency in this is going to affect our mood. It's going to affect our memory. And when we, and inflammation as well, when we have increased inflammation, we're going to have increased pain. So those things, that's an important one to have. Vitamin D is linked to depression, dementia, and autism. And when you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you're more at risk of this. So you should be looking at getting enough sunshine, especially if you're not taking a supplement. Magnesium, most people are magnesium deficient. And magnesium is super powerful. My brain went, nope. It's very important. Let's just leave it at that. Magnesium is very important. It's a powerful stress or mineral. Maybe that was what I was thinking was the word right there, mineral. Is a very important mineral in our body. So lifestyle practices that decrease magnesium levels are excess salt, coffee, alcohol, sugar, phosphoric acid, chronic stress, antibiotics, and diuretics. So all of these things lead to a decrease in magnesium. So we should be, every one of us, taking magnesium every single day to replace what we're losing. Vitamin B complex, this one's huge. Its benefits include reduced stroke risk, healthy skin and nails. Deficiencies mimic depression, and when severe, will result in significant neurological defects. It can mimic multiple sclerosis, like so many different disorders. Guillain-Barré, it could be mimicked by having a complex B vitamin complex B deficiency. Folate, low levels will make your antidepressant less effective. Some people don't realize that. Amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, which helps your brain function properly. Deficiencies lead you feeling sluggish, foggy, unfocused, and depressed. Iron, anemia related to iron deficiency is the most common and results in symptoms like depression, fatigue, irritability, and brain fog. I know how this feels. It sucks. Zinc activates digestive enzymes, which helps prevent food allergies. Some of our mood disruptions are triggered by food allergies, which many people don't recognize. Iodine is critical for your thyroid to work. It affects energy, metabolism, body temperature, growth, immune function, and brain performance, concentration, memory, and more. And then selenium is important for good thyroid function. It assists with the conversion of inactive thyroid hormone to active thyroid hormone. So these are just a real small glimpse of how nutrition can affect you and make you feel like you're depressed, stressed, anxious, irritable, foggy, memory deficits, all of that. So really important to look at how that's affecting you. And then social support. Research has documented that many physiological and mental health benefits of social support, including improved immune, cardiovascular, and neuroendocrine function, positive adjustment to chronic disease, decreased depression and anxiety, and effective buffering against the negative effects of stress. So it's important to have good social support. So the social supports, there are emotional support. They're offering an ear to listen to someone and validate their feelings and experiences, a shoulder to cry on, or showing you care by letting someone know they are seen, heard, and validated. You could be informational support, so sharing knowledge, advice, or information that helps someone who is stressed, directing them to additional support or experts who can help that is useful. Tangible support, back. No, we'll go with Kiki. Tangible support, sharing resources, so material or financial, bringing food to someone who just had surgery, helping them with their yard work or childcare would be an example of that. And then belonging support, participating in leisure activities that let someone know they belong, inviting members to a formal group, spending time with friends who are lonely, widening your circle of inclusion. So all of these are different ways that we can support somebody or that we can look to acquire support that will help us in reducing stress. So there are a number of factors that lead to stress, but there are just as many equal factors that we can use or equal tools that we can use to help us eliminate or reduce the stress that's within our life. We just need to listen to our bodies. What is our body, mind, and spirit telling us? And, make change as soon as possible, because the longer you delay, the more that these are going to cascade and actually create health issues that you may need to battle or can create really, really big problems within either your job or your family or your relationships otherwise, or, other than your general health. It can create other issues throughout your life. So that's that. Ta-da! Thank you. Stop sharing. There. I'm not hearing you. Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, I forgot that I was muted myself. I said it was so great, so much information packed into it. I mean, I don't even know if you took a breath.
I know, it's like I'm like, this is a 5-day series that I would put on, or 3 days at least. But
yeah.
Power through.
You did a fantastic job. I'm going to leave for the Q&A. I think I can leave for the Q&A and jump over because I got to get the next workshop started. So
perfect. Love you. Awesome. If anybody has any questions, just let me know.